and welcome to Growing and Eating Plants in Yoga Pants at my yoga barn. My name is Rebecca Birdwell, and today we're going to learn about vermicomposting. So vermicomposting is where you have a group of worms, and these worms happen to be red wigglers and European night crawlers, and you provide them a space to live in, and then you feed them your scraps that would go into the compost pile outside. And what they do is they move through their bedding and eat the scraps, eat the bedding, and then you use their castings as a fertilizer on your garden. And castings are basically worm poop. So if you had watched my video before on 4 ways to feed your plants, we talked about some other ways of providing nitrogen to your garden. All plants need to be fed just like we do in order for them to grow and provide food back to you. So in that video, I didn't even talk about vermicomposting, I forgot. And somebody had reminded me, and I thought, you know, one of the things I dislike about my compost pile near my garden that I have to turn every day is that it takes so long to break everything down. So I thought back, I actually have done this before. I did this in my 20s, which was a long time ago, and I lived in an apartment, and I was able to have this on the patio of my apartment. So for all you apartment dwellers, you can do this too. And I remember at the time how fast the worms went through the bedding and ate the food that I gave them. And I had so much rich nitrogen fertilizer for my plants, and at that time I only had indoor plants, but I just remember how fast it was. So I thought, why am I not doing that? It's an easy solution. You can't have too much compost when you're growing things, and you can't have too much fertilizer either. So this is actually fertilizer, not compost. We are composting, but they're giving us fertilizer through their worm poop. So to begin, let me tell you where I am first. We are in my bathroom because this could be messy, so I thought, why not step into the shower, step into the bathroom area in case it gets messy. And I've started a little bit of this before the video, and it was messy. So just let me tell you before you do this, if you choose to do this, be careful when you're in the shower because it is slick. So I did put a towel down so I wouldn't slide this time. So let me tell you what I have and what you'll need to do this project at home. So you will need a home for your worms. So basically, I took one of these handy tubs and we drilled holes on the bottom, drilled holes on the sides, and then drilled holes on the lid, because you'll need a lid. You will need a bedding for your worms, and the bedding that we are using is newspaper. And most newspapers now are made with soy-based ink, so it is okay for the worms to be in. And what you're going to do is, and then you're also going to need some soil, just some regular potting soil, and you're going to need some worms. And this bag of worms came in the snail mail, and kind of exciting. Snail mail is kind of exciting now since we are in the pandemic, shelter in place, staying home because we all want to be safe. So snail mail is like Christmas time here. So I got 500 worms in here. Right now these worms are moving kind of slow. They are dehydrated, and when I got them, the instructions said that I need to quickly hydrate them. And I thought, hydrate them how? Let's just get them in their home. So that's where I am tonight on Saturday night, making a worm bin in my bathroom. So when you start to make the bedding, you're basically going to tear the newspaper up into 1-inch strips. So what that would look like is, don't overthink it, you're just going to rip it and till you get a lot of it. So if you notice down below me, there's quite a big pile of ripped up paper in my bathroom. You might be thinking, wow, that's a lot for that little bin. Well, guess what? This is the second session of ripping up paper that I've done tonight. I thought that amount would be enough. Once I got it wet, it shrunk down and it's in my bucket here and it's about halfway full. So I actually had to stop and rip paper. Another secret that I have learned too is that you're gonna wanna get down here because if you notice when you rip it, they stick together and you're gonna want to kind of do this kind of thing to make sure all of the pieces are separated, because when you get them wet, they're gonna come together. You're not gonna want to get this soaking wet, you're gonna wanna get it wet, like sponge-like wet. So imagine that worms are gonna have to crawl through it. So think about that when you're getting it wet. And actually, it was really convenient to be in the bathroom to do this because I have this handy thing that comes out of my bathtub, and it worked really good to moisten this newspaper. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add, what I want is an alternate layers of wet newspaper and soil. So what I've already done is I've moistened this paper, and what I think I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and moisten the rest of it and then take it out and then alternate it back in, okay? So what that's going to look like is and you may be laughing right now and thinking, that's a lot of newspaper, Rebecca. Well, that's what I thought earlier too, and it does shrink down. And what a fun project for you and the kids to do. Rip some paper while you're all at home together, make a mess. Okay, let's wet some newspaper. Remember, there's holes in the bottom. I am in the shower, so any extra water, it will be running out of the holes. And I'm lifting up because, remember, I don't want it to stick together, but I do want to get every piece damp. And see how great this works? Oh, way better than what I tried last time. I had a spray bottle last time. See, it shrunk down, didn't it? And remember, I already had some in there. Okay, so basically again, so you can see what it looks like. It's just a bunch of wet newspaper. It's not too wet. It's just wet enough. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take half of this out. I'm going to shake it up again, make sure it's loose. That's what it looks like. I'm going to add a little bit of soil. And I always say, don't overthink it. You're going to ask me how much soil I'm putting in. I'm going to say, as much as you need. I'm going to add another layer. Add some more soil. Add another layer. Add some soil. See, I'm not making a mess at all. Add another layer. Add a little bit of soil. You know, just enough to alternate. Oops, there's some on the floor. And add the last layer. And keep in mind, you know, try not to be a perfectionist about that, and that's just coming from me, the always recovering perfectionist. You can always add more if you find that after a day or two it settles down and you feel like you need more bedding. So this is where the worms are going to live. Let's put the babies in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach down, I'm going to pull back some of the bedding and put some worms kind of halfway down. I'm going to see how it goes. I'm going to see how many 500 really is. Now there's also peat moss in here, okay? So I actually haven't stuck my hand in here and taken these out yet, so you guys get to see them for the first time. Woo! Alrighty, look at that. Okay, so these are, see that? Red wigglers in there? They look pretty lively to me. Somebody said that they were asleep. They look like they're awake. Okay, so what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna reach down here and I'm gonna just kind of shake. Woo, wow, look at that. I'm gonna shake them in here. So remember, this is where they're gonna live. Wow, look. Oh, that's a lot. Okay, 500. I don't know, how many is 500? So, you know, you can get 250, but I thought, we're not getting out much these days, so for a little extra money, might as well get 500. And I thought, if I, whoa, one's in my shower. If I get too many, I can always just move them into the garden, into the compost. So these guys are a lot more wiggly than I expected. I expected them to be asleep. Wow, I think we have a lot. That's okay. I need compost fast. I'm running out of compost. I'm just gonna put them all in. Let's just do it. Let's just do it. So I'm gonna cover them back up. And it says to let them, that they should be active in 1 to 2 days. I feel like they're pretty active now, and I feel like I need to go ahead and feed them because I don't want them to be hungry and be wanting to try and find a way out of the bin. And don't worry, I'm not going to keep the bin in my bathroom. We'll put the bin on the porch outside the kitchen. So let me just show you how you will feed them when it's time to feed them. So basically, we have 2 containers like this in our kitchen. It's messy, I know, but you know, there's a prettier way to do it, but this is what we do. One is always for the compost and one is always for the chickens. So the chickens come first, and if the chickens can't eat it, then the rest of it goes into the compost, which is typically right now my outdoor compost. So we'll be now feeding these to the worms and then kind of keep an eye on if they're keeping up with the amount of food or if they need more food, and that'll tell me if I need to slow down and start adding this back to the outside compost. So what you would do is you would basically open this up and bury your compost in the bedding. Now that's, I think, a lot of food, but you know, we've got 500 worms. Cover it up. And for everybody grossing out right now, remember, we all grossed out on the chicken poop too, and it sure grew some corn pretty fast. So the things you gotta do for your nitrogen source. So that is vermicomposting, the easy way. Thank you for coming. If you like this video, be sure to give me a thumbs up, subscribe below, and there's a bell if you want to get notified for future videos. This channel's mission is to teach you everything I know about growing your own food, eating your food, cooking it in the kitchen, and everything else to do with yoga. I don't know everything, but I'm willing to teach you what I know. If I don't see you in the kitchen, I'll see you in the garden, or I'll see you on the yoga mat. Thanks for coming by.